Welcome, everyone. This is the third and final installment of the McGill BioDesign McGill aCADemy Face Shield Workshop series. And in this particular video, we're going to be actually creating the shield as well as the assembly all together, just so you can see how the part gels together. So, it's pretty exciting. And if you're seeing this after the recording, I thank you for joining along. Your support is truly appreciated. Okay. So I'm going to share my screen here. Alrighty. Now, as you can notice here, I have the exact same part that we designed before. So this is essentially the headband that we had, and it has these different slots. So this goes around the back of the user's head where my mouse is pointing, and it allows you to adjust based on the different settings because this whole object is made out of rubber. As well, we have these two front braces that are responsible for actually clipping the mask, or sorry, the shield in together. Now, you may be asking, why am I back on this headband file? And the reason for that is, it's not very convenient to actually go and, CAD the actual connection between the two parts, the shield and the headband, from scratch. It doesn't really make sense. So essentially what I've done is I've gone up to File, Save As, and it's important that you press Save As. And with the headband file, you create a new file. So this shield, ignore that one. The one that I'm currently on is shield_new. And this is a duplicate of the headband file. Okie dokie. Now, the first step would be to actually, make use of the geometry that was provided to us. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fix our frame as demonstrated. I'm going to create a new sketch, but this sketch is going to be on top of these front connections here, and you'll see why in a second. Now, we currently have no geometry to actually base our sketch off of. We have no lines within our new sketch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the Convert Entities tool. And if you remember that, it essentially projects anything from another sketch to your current sketch. So I'm going to click this line right here and these contours right here. Remember that we can click faces and it'll essentially trace out the edge and bring it up to what we have here. And there we go. That's the first part. Now the next part would be to actually, create the connections that we desire for this. So using the origin of the previous circle. So we already have our sketch origin placed conveniently here, so that's perfect. And essentially, I'm going to draw this out. And as you can see, we actually have nowhere to go off of. We have nowhere for this first band to actually fall within. And that can be fixed very quickly. We just draw a horizontal line across from here. Sorry, my computer's being a little bit slow today. I don't see why. We already have a horizontal line going across there, and we're going to do the same on the other contour as well. And essentially, we'll actually be making use of the relations that I showed in our previous video, in particular, the tangent relationship. So if we zoom out here, okie dokie, and press our circle sketching tool again, we can go down to where we were before. You'll notice that we can actually select this line. And essentially what we want to do is we want to select its midpoint. So you press Select Other when you right click. And for some reason, the menu doesn't seem to be showing, but this will work for us. And if you go on the other side and check, we have the exact same geometry, right? And we can ensure that they are touching by pressing Shift and clicking at the same time. And then when we do that, we can press Tangent as a relationship. So they're slightly touching one another, and that's good. That's all we need. I'm going to go back here as well and ensure, yes, they're tangent. Perfect. Now that's for the outer part of the connection that we're desiring to make. Now we want the inner part. This one's a lot easier. We don't actually even need to do anything because it's already been made for us. As you can see, the circle right here has already been created for us. So that's extremely convenient. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the trim entities tool. And if you remember from our previous tutorial, essentially what it does is it automatically infers what lines you want to cut out and cuts them out for you, rather than actually having to delete entire segments of lines, which would be very inconvenient. So if I click trim entities and drag through with the left click, you'll notice all of our old reference geometry is gone. So that's one part of it. And now for the second part, we already have this circle down here. That's perfectly fine. We just want to get rid of this sort of protrusion here that we had before. That is not good, as well as this inner contour. And do the same on the other side. So we do that and click through. Awesome. Now let's see what we have left. We have, perfect, everything we actually need. We'll get rid of this line segment here. Actually, no, I think we can keep it. We'll check to see if it's a fully closed contour after the fact. And we'll press exit out of this sketch. Now, hopefully what this will allow us to do, so I'm just going to temporarily hide everything else. So if I suppress them, so this is more like a temporary deletion, if anything. Oh, sorry, I can't do that because it's dependent. We'll do it one by one. Right click, hide. Give it a moment. There we go. That's all we need. Now, if we actually go and extrude this, I can probably see some issues arising from this, but we'll try anyways. And yeah, exactly. Now, the big issue is we have these lines that are sort of protruding out. So, I mean, this is not necessarily a closed contour as what we'd prefer. So this is an easy fix. We'll go back into our sketch, edit sketch, and use the trim entities tool to get rid of the lines that we forgot to trim out. So that's one part of it. Awesome. That guy's out. And we'll do the same on the other side too. Awesome. So that's another part. And as you can see, we have the same case on these connections below from what it seems like. Because we have two distinct types of lines here. So we can actually get rid of one as well. So we'll get rid of this line, which was our horizontal line, if you remember from before. And we'll do the same on the other side. There we go. Now you'll see it's actually underdefined. And the reason for that is we actually got rid of some of the reference geometry that this particular arc needed in order to actually be defined. So we can just apply a quick dimension to that. Doesn't really matter what it is for the purpose of this tutorial, and just roll with it. So if we press exit, and this is fully defined, which is perfect, and then try to do an extruded boss slash base and click on the sketch contour once more. And clear our selections. You'll notice, there we go. It recognizes it as a closed contour of sorts. So if we click everything and deselect the merge thin feature, there we go. This is exactly the type of shape that we wanted for our project. So that's perfect, but we're not nearly close to being done quite yet. What we need to do is unhide everything. So give that a moment. There we go. And you'll notice what we want is for this particular component to have holes in which these different buckles of sorts can actually lodge within and then sort of fasten on the other side. So what we actually need to do is expand this on the other side a little bit and give it some vertical height and essentially cut a hole in the middle. So we can do that right now. We'll go back to our sketch and go up. And what we want to do is we actually want to expand this further out. So what we can do from here is recreate our circles from before, have them match up to the current circles that we have. And this is a bit of a roundabout method of going at it, but you'll get the same results regardless. And then let's see, will it give us the perpendicularity feature? Yes, it will. Perfect. Now I've just created a random perpendicular line. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to specify its location based on the outer edge of what we wanted from before. So let's say the distance between the two is maybe like half a centimeter. Let's see how that looks. Yep, that could work. Let's expand it to 1 just to be safe, just for an additional safety factor. There we go. And it should load. Now we'll do the same on the other side too. So I'll go in. Bit of a slow day for the computer. Give it a moment. Oh, my apologies. SolidWorks can be a little bit finicky sometimes with what you select. Yeah, I have to actually scroll over here and try to select this point. Okay, we'll use the select other tool. This must be an absolute pain to look at. Okay, so we'll go press select others. Oh, it won't pop up. Okay, whoops. We'll just create a new point and then base our line off of that point. This is tried and true. I just wanted to prevent that, but it's okay. So there we go. It's automatically perpendicular. And we'll do the exact same thing that we did before. So if we press Smart Dimension and click on the bottom of that line with the edge of this one, we'll set the distance between the two to be 1 centimeter once the option comes up. Give it a moment. Nice. Awesome. Now what we can do is we can actually get rid of those additional lines that we made before. And as you can see, we've actually sort of expanded our shape very easily, didn't have to really recreate anything, and it's pretty convenient now. Now, finally, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go and create some new contours, and you'll see why. Essentially, we need holes for this buckle to actually, fall in. So we currently have this side length, which is perfect. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to convert this other side length here as well. And if we press OK, there we go. We have that one there. And then if we press convert entities once more, we have another one right here. And then if we actually exit our sketch, the nice thing about this is we can do multiple extrusions at once. Now, okay, let's see. Presently, I think we can also get rid of our other objects as well. But let's keep them for now. I'm going to extrude this. So essentially, we'll take this contour, give it a moment, nice. And it automatically selected the largest contour, which is what we want initially. So we'll say this is 0.25 centimeters thick. And yes, we want it to actually extrude upwards. So this is perfect. And there we go. Now I actually have to be careful there. I'm going to go back to the edit feature. And I want to ensure that this doesn't actually merge with our current contours. So unclick the merge result button, because essentially if you delete the body underneath it, it'll recognize it as one solid body and it'll all go at once. So we'll keep that as so. And then what we want to do is we want to make our sketch visible once more and keep reusing this contour as much as possible. Now, if we click that contour once more, what we can do is we can actually get rid of this one and click all of the ones in between. And it's doing this weird shape because we had thin feature selected automatically, which is not what we want. And essentially, I'm going to change the direction of extrusion such that it goes underneath. And we'll just increase it by, I think this thickness was 0.75, if I'm not mistaken. And we can check. Let's see. It was more than that. Yeah, it was 1 centimeter. Awesome. And we don't want to merge this result. Actually, firstly, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to get rid of this so that we can merge our result, because we want to merge it to this top piece. So I think this may be the time to actually part ways with our previous design. So what I'm going to do from here then is I'm just going to essentially delete this part. And let's see, is this dependent on it? Yes. Okay. I'm just going to give it a moment here, 1 moment. Now we're in a bit of a predicament. We want to actually get rid of this body underneath, but we don't want to get rid of the references for it. Well, an easy way of doing this would be to actually use the delete body feature. So if we go insert and press delete/keep body, now you'll see why I didn't press the merge bodies button. If I click on this body underneath and press OK, you'll notice it doesn't select the body that we just created. It just essentially deletes everything around it, which is perfect. Now, usually you don't want to do this. Usually you don't want to have the remnants of your other part within this part and essentially have those references, have the new dimensions of your current part reference to those old dimensions. The better way to do it would be with like mathematical expressions. But for the purpose of this tutorial, what we've done is essentially just copied it over. So this is sort of the so-and-so lazy way of doing it. But if you, in actual practice, you would actually CAD everything from scratch and just use expressions to guide your way. Now, what we can do is just finish up this part here. So I'm going to do the extrusion that we wanted to do originally, just didn't do as a result of the merging debacle. And just give it a moment. Okay, delete that selection. And we'll select everything around these slot holes. And if you remember, it was 1 centimeter thick extrusion. And now we can actually merge the result because all we have left is the new part that we created. So I'm going to press OK to that. And as you can see, it's one solid body. Now, finally, our final step would be just to create the bottom half of it. So we'll click that sketch contour once more, clear our selections, and essentially have every single sector of it selected. And we'll rotate or change the direction of extrusion. Now, we don't want to sketch it from our current sketch plane. We want to extrude it from the bottom. So what we do is we just click from surface face/plane. You could also set the offset numerically by pressing the offset button. And our initial extrusion was 0.25 centimeters thick. So if we press OK and have merge turned on, there we go. We have created our new interface such that the actual object doesn't really, such that we didn't have to actually create everything from scratch. So this is what the actual, face shield is going to connect to. Now, we're not necessarily done quite yet. What we want to do is we want to go within Sketch 3 and edit the sketch. And we want to create more components. And as you can see, it's automatically rolled everything back because the body delete feature was done after the sketch was created. But don't worry, it won't have any effect on our future results. So now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to create an extension of what we just made. So again, we're going to use the perpendicular line technique that we had from before. Actually, scratch that. Let's use a rectangle, and you'll see why quite soon. So a 3-point corner rectangle, that's what we want to use. And essentially what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to sketch out some extensions like so. So this is one of the bottom corners. We're going to have it connect to our circle once more, our outer circle. And we're going to draw out this extension like so. Okay, that's awesome. And now we can actually add some dimensions to it. So we're going to assign it a width. So for the width, let's say approximately, since we want this to be a little bit stronger, we'll say maybe 0.75 centimeters. Let's see how that looks. It's not bad. Okay. And now you'll see the value of actually constraining your sketch, because if these parts of the sketch were underdefined and we did this, essentially you can sort of imagine the entire circle moving along. So it's good that we actually establish these different dimensions right here, such that the sketch underneath doesn't move. So this seems to be fine. You can make it thicker, thinner, however much you want it. This is more of an approximation. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to trim this sort of straight part of this rectangle that we just made. And then from there, what we want to do is we just want to dimension the height of it, or the length. So if we move our mouse as such, we can say, yeah, 2.5 looks about fine. So 2.5, like so. Give it a moment. And as you can see, it's still not fully constrained, and that's because it still doesn't have a translational constraint. So this can still move relative to the sketch itself. So the way to fix that would be to constrain it to the origin and one of the side vertices. So we'll say this one is 4.5 centimeters. And then there we go. That's one of those complete. And then we can just add some relations to make this more complete. So I'll press Shift click and we'll add a perpendicular relation. I'll add another Shift click. This should be perpendicular as well. There we go. And then finally, we need to establish a distance between this guy and this guy. So there we go. Again, it's a bit of a complicated process, defining everything. But with enough patience, and if you know what you're doing, it shouldn't be too bad. Now, what we want to do is we want to recreate this shape on the other side. So I'm going to create a center line, as we did in the previous tutorial, which is essentially going to be a sort of reference for us. And we're just going to draw it downwards. It doesn't really need to have a defined length to it. We could say this is like 20 centimeters long. Again, it's just a piece of reference geometry. So it's up to you. So I'll give it that dimension such that our sketch just stays fully defined. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to mirror what we just made onto the other side. So if we press mirror entities and click on these three lengths that we just made, and we're going to mirror it about our new axis. If we press OK, there we go. We have it on both sides. And now we can actually create the plastic visor bit of our what do you call it? Face shield. So what I'm going to do from here then is I'm going to create some new circles from our sketch origin that connect essentially in the same way that we wanted before. Now, there we go. This is tangent. We're actually going to get rid of these horizontal lines that we had from before. Those were just more references for us. So what we can do from here, actually, we can keep those. We can keep those. Let me get rid of this circle and do that again. So I'm going to go from the origin and essentially click on one of the vertices now. And you'll see why I did this. We can essentially bring this one up and make it coincident. Now it's overdefined, and that's because of one of our relations. So let's see, what is a relation that ruined it for us? I think the previous method was better. We'll go back to that, just so that we don't have to deal with the hassle. So I'm actually going to get rid of this coincident relationship that we just created. And rather, I'm going to make it a tangent relationship. So we'll get rid of that. Click on the circle. Click on the line that we're basing this upon, and click tangent. There we go. That's much better. And now we can get rid of the excess. So I'm just going to quickly trim those portions off. And as you can see, there's a small little portion here. We trimmed that off too. Oh, whoops. Accidentally trimmed too much. Again, this is something that's done very quickly, but my apologies. In practice, you would have better measurements for this. But for the purpose of a beginner tutorial, this is fine. Oh, geez. Just don't do what I'm doing, where I keep accidentally trimming our circle. My apologies. Okay, I'll just select the line segment and press delete. Enough with the trim tool. There we go. And as you'll notice, we've lost a few of our definitions. We can get those back quite soon. Now we'll do the same on the other side. So establish a tangent relationship between the circle and this line right here. And then essentially repeat what we did before. So I'm gonna get rid of these lines and then get rid of that line. Nice, and there's a little segment sticking out here. We can have it be coincident to our circle. So you click on your circle, shift click, and then we'll add a coincident relationship between the two. But for some reason, it's selected the wrong circle. Let's see, why is that? That's all right, we could just get rid of it. Oh, whoops, my apologies. This part can be a little bit painstaking. Okay, didn't quite do what we wanted, but that's okay. We can come back to that. Okay, so that's the first part. And we can just trim off a portion of that there. I'll give it a moment. All right, so essentially what I've done is I've just added a coincident relationship between that point and this arc. Again, it'll be fine for now. Our contours seem to be closed. I'm going to reapply those width dimensions that we had before. Just give it a moment. We'll say that's 0.75. There we go. Yeah, it's being a little bit slow right now. That's okay, we can fix that eventually. So apply another width dimension there. It keeps going with angle. That's not what we want. So we're going to go point to point instead. So we'll say this is 0.75 as well, once the prompt appears. All right, and apply a relation as such. So this is going to be 4.5 apart as well. Oh, whoops, my apologies. It wanted a height. And we can provide that. Oh, okay. Then we'll do, let's see. It likely wants a horizontal relation between these two then. Yeesh, this is quite slow. Okay, and likely a length as well. Again, these dimensions can be a little bit finicky to work with. There we go. Okay, perfect. Now we're fully defined. All right, and now we can go to our second step, which is essentially creating the edges of this component. And you'll see what I mean quite soon. So say if we go and create another perpendicular component lines as such, there we go, and give it a dimension, oh, whoops. So we'll give it a smart dimension of, if I zoom out here, base to the origin, we'll say approximately 11 centimeters, why not? That works. And then for the actual length of it, this is going to be the thickness of the plastic component upon which the actual face shield lies. We'll say this is about 2 centimeters, 2.5. 2.5 sounds good. And we're going to essentially mirror it across the axis that we made before. So if we go to mirror entities, click on that line and then mirror it about this line. There we go. And then all that's left is just to connect it with the circle. And we just need to ensure that this is coincident. So if we click that and click this, shift click and press coincident, there we go, fits perfectly. And it's fully defined. And now what we can do is just get rid of the lines that we made before. These are sort of constructor lines. And then we can get rid of these lines as well. And then there we go. We have no open contours, or sorry, we don't have those contours that we had before. Now, remember, this was in our first sketch that we created. So essentially, this whole component is shown to be an open contour, but in reality, it's just out of the first open or the first closed contour that we made. So we'll be able to select this. So I'll show you what I mean. So if I exit this sketch and just give it a quick moment and make the sketch visible, there we go. It appears as such. And then what we can do from there, I'm probably going to end up reducing the side length. So here, let me go back and quickly do that. We'll say this is going to be 1.5 inches in retrospect. Seems a little too thick for the upper shield. There we go. And now we can exit. Yeah, that looks a lot better already. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to extrude this as well and click this contour instead. And then clear our selections and essentially click on either side, deselect thin. And now what we can do is we can actually extend this below. So we can do it in both ways. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually have this go in two directions. So automatically it's going to match the top length of our extrusion. Remember, we extruded above a little bit. So that was by 0.25 centimeters. On the bottom, I believe it was by 1.25 centimeters. So then all together, if we could do that, and we can have it merge or not merge. My intention for this was to make this either plastic or rubber, but we can merge it just for the sake of convenience. There we go. Now, as you can notice, it sort of actually got rid of our previous contours, and that was because of the new additions that we made. So that is an easy fix. let's see if I edit that feature. So our first extrusion seems to be fine. That's perfect. We'll exit out of that. Let's see. What about our next extrusion? That seems to be the problematic one, as well as the one on the bottom. So if we press edit feature on that and give it a moment. And for our sketch regions, we want to select that contour as well. Sometimes it deselects it automatically when you introduce new contours within your sketch. This is an easy way of fixing that. So we have to edit the bottom part as well. And on the bottom here, oh, whoops. We'll essentially click this loop here. My apologies. It can be a little bit complicated sometimes. Select that, select that, select this other feature. It was likely because of that center line that we created. And then press 0.25 for the extrusion on the bottom. And this should look a lot better. And there we go, yes. And all issues that we had from before were resolved. Now, this is essentially the bottom component of our, or sorry, the plastic component of our face shield. Essentially what we want to do is connect the rest of the face shield to this. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create a new sketch. And what it's going to be is on the bottom of this contour that we made. So I'm going to hide this previous sketch that we had before. We don't really have any use for it now. And if I press sketch on the bottom surface of this, we can now do the same sort of steps that we did before. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to convert entities. Now, let's actually limit the amount that we want to convert because we don't really want to deal with this bottom or this sort of first portion that we created before. We just want to deal with this top segment. So I'm going to click on these different lines here and press OK. And there we go. Those ones have been converted. And if we want to make this one entire solid line, I'm actually going to get rid of these different ones in the middle here and create one solid line with a circle. And just ensure that it is coincident on the other side too. So shift click on the bottom edge of that side and press coincident. There we go. And then get rid of the excess. Perfect. We have a closed contour here. You can see it's slightly shaded blue. Now, the intention of this is to actually offset these edges a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on within the closed contour that we just created and offset it by 0.25 centimeters. So I think you just got to give it some time to, yeah, it didn't select for some reason. That's okay. Ah, perfect. Yeah. So it's automatically selecting for us. I think for this region, 0.2 centimeters inside would be perfect. And from here, what I'm going to do, so this is fully defined, is I'm going to make an extruded cut. Actually, let's increase the width of this. Let's say this is going to be 0.4 centimeters. 0.4 centimeters would be better. We'll double that. There we go. Yeah, that seems more in tune with the actual thickness of the face shield. Okay, so we'll create an extruded cut. And for the contours, we're just going to select the inside here. And for the actual face shield plastic component to fit in, we need a little bit of a groove within the actual rubber. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring this up by, 0.5 centimeters. No, we'll do 1. There we go. That's much better. And essentially, you'll imagine like the plastic component, part of it could be like hot glued up there or, molded together. The manufacturing design decision is up to you. This is sort of just a basic way of going at it. So as we go here, we can see we've actually created a new cavity. So this is where the plastic face shield will lie. Now from there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new extrusion, right? So using the sketch that we had before, as well as a sketch, we don't even need another sketch. What we can do is just do this. So I'm going to click on an extruded boss / base, but it's going to be based off of the bottom surface of the new cut that we just did. And we can press convert entities to just take the geometry from before and press exit. That's all we need. Say this is sort of counterintuitive. Why are we doing this? Well, you'll see why. So I'm going to deselect merge. And for the actual up to, we'll just do up to a surface. So up to this bottom surface. There we go. And we'll press OK. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to apply a new type of material to this. So if I move my face to the side and press appearances, we'll go into the plastic components. And then what we want is within the plastic, let's see, where could we find it? We want something translucent, clear plastic, there we go. Translucent plastic. And we're gonna do it on, so there's multiple features provided here. One is the feature. So whenever you have this sort of, light, what do you call it? Rectangular prism with the blue prism, that indicates a feature. So it's like an extrusion or an extruded cut or a revolved extrusion. Beside it is a body, right? So this is an accumulation of features. At the moment, it does the same thing because we only have one feature, which is just an extrusion. But you'll see in a moment that if we select the body, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another plastic component underneath this, which is merged. It'll actually apply the material to the entire object. So I'm just going to press OK there. And as you can see, we have some translucent plastic within our rubber face shield cover type thing. Not necessarily sure what to call it in this case. So there we go. That's the top connection that actually fits to the user's headband. Now, the next portion will be to actually create a new reference plane. Now I'm going to use the lofting feature in order to actually have a connection that goes from this top portion to the bottom of the face shield. And then we'll have a sort of concave face shield that fits around the user's face. So if we go and click on this bottom edge as our reference and orient our camera as such, I believe, let me see, if I measure my own face, so with inches, looks like if we go up to here, around 18 inches, it should be adequate. So we'll do that. So 18. And there we go. So we'll press OK. And then within this new sketching plane, what we're going to do is we're going to create a new sketch. And as you can see, it has the same origin as we had before. So this is very convenient. Now within that, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to make this sort of an extrusion, or sorry, an offset of the translucent plastic piece that we had in the bottom here. Oh, whoops, my bad. So if I press convert entities and click this contour, the inner contour, we have that there. And then essentially what we want to do is we want to offset this. So we want to offset this by, let's say, it doesn't have to be a very large amount. Let's say around 1.5 centimeters. That seems fine. And we can change it accordingly. I'll say 1.25 centimeters. There we go. So this is just a preliminary offset that we've done for the bottom. And now what we want to do is we want to do the same thing for the bottom edge too. But we want to do it upwards. As you can see, this offset automatically did it downwards. That's not necessarily the case that we want. So we can actually address that. I'm going to undo this offset and I'm going to actually click a different feature. So as you can see, it has select chain already associated. Get rid of that. We only want to do one line. So we'll do the same for the bottom. There we go. That's much better. Awesome. And then all we really need to do is just add some connecting lines on either end just to close this contour up. Awesome. And then we can just trim these entities. And it'll say that our sketch is underdefined because we don't have any references. That's easy to fix. Just add a couple of dimensions. So one dimension for the inner radius or the inner arc. Give it a moment. There we go. And then selecting the two, we can apply another dimension. So one there, one there. This is going to be the distance between these two. Okay. And then we just need to ensure that this side is this far away. Again, this is the most tedious part of any type of design, your dimensions and your constraints. And then we also want these two to be concentric. So shift click. There we go. We added that concentric relation. We'll do the same on the other side. And then let's see, what else can we do? We want this on the other side too. And then finally, let's just add a radius on the outer edge too. Oh, we already have that. My apologies. I presume it just wants this part. Nope. How about the vertical height? Let's try it on the other side. Nope. All right, well, what else could we apply to it? That's okay. For now, we'll just forget about this. Again, try to constrain it on your own time, but I want to show the actual loft. So I'm going to exit this sketch. All right, and what I'm going to do from here is I'm going to create a 3D curve. So it should be curved through reference points. And we're just going to have some guide curves going from here to the corresponding top corner that we want to project up to. I believe this should help. Okay, and now we can actually use a new tool. So either the swept boss/base tool or the lofted boss/base. So the difference between these two is one of them, you need to have a guide curve in order to do this. So this is the loft. The other, it's more flexible. So we'll see which one is which very quickly here. All right. And now if we move this sort of connector directly below, this is perfect. And if we press OK, we didn't even need the guide curve. So I could just get rid of that. Nice. Now let's go back into our loft settings. And let's see, merge tangent faces. Let's see. We want to actually change the feature scope. I can't speak, sorry. The feature scope. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to redo this, because as you can see, it actually merged with the rubber. This is not necessarily what we want. So clicking on lofted boss/base again, what we can do is have it go up to our contour once more. And then merge tangent faces is not the case. And then the feature scope selected bodies, perfect. So now if we press OK, what we can do is just apply our new material. So we'll do the translucent plastic for this loft. Okay, awesome. And that wraps up this. I think the radius seems to be a little too small for this. So we can actually augment that. We can go into our first sketch and actually expand the size of it. I'm going to do that. So let's see, what were our dimensions? The only constraint we had was this horizontal constraint here. So I am going to increase that to approximately 15 centimeters, let's say. Awesome. Looks a lot better. Let's reduce that a little bit. Let's make that around 14. Again, I'm just playing around here, seeing what looks the best. But this is the advantage of actually constraining everything properly. You'll notice that your sketch automatically updates when you change one expression. So that's extremely convenient. And then if we look back again, the sketch that we made after this sketch did not update accordingly. And that's because we got rid of the references. So 1 second, I'll fix that up and I'll be back very quickly. All right, well, we're back to our original sketch. We messed up a little bit, my apologies, but we can fix this very quickly. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to get rid of all these different contours that we made on the bottom edge. So we'll say yes to all. The reason why that warning popped up is because our loft is dependent on these curves, but we can easily replace them. And we're going to redo what we just made. So again, this sort of emphasizes the importance of actually constraining your sketches properly. So we're going to offset our entities once more, but now we know what to do. So that's the benefit of this. And we'll collect We'll click the two contours that we were responsible for before. So there we go. And we can essentially just connect these two. Now, the mistake I made in the previous run was getting rid of this sort of contour that we had before. You know, normally you could get rid of this and just replace all of your different dimensions. Replace its reference with dimensions. But for the purpose of this, we can keep this in and just disregard it when we select our feature. So we'll just exit. This is fully defined. And yeah, we'll just rebuild. So exit the sketch and rebuild anyway. We'll press close. Again, it was the error that we were predicting, and we'll just edit this feature once more. So then we'll get rid of that first face that we selected, and then we'll click the new contour that we just made. So let's see. Okay, it should be this new one here. And we'll select closed loop. And as for the profile itself, we want this edge to go to the corresponding edge. So let's see, this was on the bottom edge. This is sort of a guide curve of sort that the loft tool automatically puts in place. Okay, perfect. Looks a bit better. And if you want, again, we can reduce or increase the radius. It's completely up to you. Now see if I try to do what I did before. So if I go into sketch 3 and edit the sketch, and say if we increase that radius to, let's say, 15 now, what we wanted before. 15 or 16, let's do 15.5. A compromise between the two. And then press exit. Give it some time. You'll notice everything updated accordingly. Makes sense. As well, we can also change the length of it. So say if this is a little too high, what we can do is go into edit feature of the reference plane that this sketch was based upon and say, this is equal to like, 25 or more adequately like 23. And if we press that, give it some time, there you go. You'll notice it's actually a bit longer now. So this is pretty nice. And okay, that concludes this face shield design. Now what we need to do is actually make an assembly. So what we'll do is we'll create an assembly from part. Again, give it some time. And this will essentially put this part into an assembly file. And an assembly is just a collection of parts. So you'll see quite soon what I mean. Okay, and now we're within our assembly. So what I'm going to do from here is I'm going to click on this open document here and click down here. This is our new shield. And what we want to do is we want to go into the assembly tab and insert components. So we'll browse, and what we want to do is we want to actually insert our headband. There we go. And then from there, we have to use the mating tool. So as you can see, the shield is currently fixed. It's this F button. So that means it won't move if you try to move it. The headband, when it has this dash, which normally means an underdefined sketch within a part, means it can actually move. If you actually drag it around, you can rotate it using right click or holding your right click and moving your mouse around. There's multiple ways of doing that. But for the purpose of this, let's keep it as is. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and click on the inner edges of this with the mate tool. And this will essentially tell the object that you can't move past this constraint. So it automatically selects a coincident constraint, meaning that they're touching or their planes are touching. That would be more adequate. So as you can see, they're not necessarily, face on face. They don't have like a proper interface, but it'll work. You just have to keep adding constraints until your part can't move. So we'll do the same for this side as well. There we go. Give it another constraint on the bottom. There we go. And then finally, if we zoom out, we can put in another constraint such that this outer edge simply touches the inner edge of our buckling device. And as you can see on both sides, the buckles have been attached, right? And this is a very basic type of shield design. So if we exit, it's probably still able to, oh no, it's fully defined. So that means no matter what you do, this assembly can't move. And as you can see, you can make a few adjustments. It's completely up to you what you choose to do with it. Like personally, if I were to go back and edit this a little bit more, I would probably choose to taper this a bit more. And wait, let me check this. Yeah, everything seems to be symmetric. So that essentially concludes this tutorial. If you want to try going at this a little bit more, you know, try to implement some new features to it, I'd say go for it. This is more or less the template to go off of. But I hope this helped, and I hope it was interesting for the majority of you. All right, well, thanks for tuning in, and I wish you well. See ya.